Hello and welcome to Daily News on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers, starting off with Vanguard this morning. And Vanguard is leading with NAIRA fuel scarcity. Election will hold as planned. NSA. The writer says we won't be used to derail general election. CBN assures INEC promises to make cash available to electoral umpire. Buhari meet Emefiele, Tambuwa, Bagudu over NAIRA scarcity. You can see that story on page 8. CBN to make profound pronouncement on Friday. On page 7, we have fuel naira scarcity, youth protest in Ondo, Ogun, Edo. Shake up in police as IGP redeploys senior officers. On page 4, how I escaped Turkey earthquake, Johnson, Nigerian survivor. Death toll hits 7,200. State of the nation, anarchy looms, and that's from Kachiku. On spot, you have Atsu rescued injured from earthquake rubble in Turkey. On high tech, we have a NAIRA redesign. Banks, telcos differ on why online banking transaction fails. And we have a quote from Afe Babalola says, leadership anywhere in the world should be about service to the people. It should always be about constantly evolving ways to improve the lot of the governed. Fuel crisis, confusion as Ipman orders members on lifting. And stories above, we have Naira scarcity, Tinubu article at Dagger drones, and we can also see a photo story showing CBN Governor, INEC chairman as they meet. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with Naira scarcity sparks protest. The writer says Benin CBN office bank branches shut. Protesters block Benin Ore Road. Buhari meets Tamboa Bagudu Emefiele. Stories above court frees Omokore, two firms in $1.6 billion oil fraud case. NNPCL CEO, petrol scarcity will ease next week. I have the confidence, vision, and capacity to rule. That's coming from BAT. Presidential polls, Atiku promises to ensure smooth exploration of Bauchi oil. Wike OK Stadium for Atiku rally. CSO's target 3.5 million votes for Tinubu. IG orders posting of DIGs, AIGs, CPs. Tinubu calls for calm over cash crunch, petrol scarcity. El-Rufai Abiodun, let's embrace peace. Ganduje links a naira shortage, court injunction to anti-June 12 element. Limited cash withdrawals rules cut to election, says INEC. Federal government, why president can't end impasse. All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with currency swap. Buhari councils meetings with governors on CUC issues ultimatum. The writer says meet with Bagudu Tambuwa, Emefiele, EFCC boss. Tinubu, bankers call for calm. PDP hoarding of new naira notes causes Nigerian Spain. Protest rock Ondo, Ogun. Lagos ABC suspend campaign. INEC chair meet Emefiele demands a concession for election operation. NDIC adopts a new reporting template to fast-track MFBs, PMIs in short claims. And of course, the countdown to the election, 17 days left. Wike backtracked approved stadium for Atiku's rally. Ghanaian star rescued from rubble after earthquake. Emefiele can't fund activities of IPOB, says group. Anarcho youths invade Omar community, kill 8, scores missing. All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with Naira scarcity may disrupt polls. INEC wants Emefiele NSA. The writer says that some of our service providers have no bank accounts. Commission laments. Governor's meeting shelved. Minister says the president's hand tied. Banks shut branches over customers' attack. CBN calls for calm. Ondo, Edo protesters storm banks, demand cash. Ekiti owes pensioners 40 billion naira gratuities, and that's coming from Yebanji. You can see that story on page 12. On page 5, US indicts a Nigerian of stealing varsity's $1.4 million. Federal government plans a new policy to track public spending. Stories above. We have a fuel price to skyrocket as marketers threaten shutdown. Banks ordered to freeze Pakistani terror financiers' accounts. How powerful forces try to stop Tinubu's candidacy. That's coming from ABC Vice Chair. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Turkey Syria earthquake deaths hits 7,146. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And if you're just joining me still today in the news on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the paper is Mr. Gbenro Olajigbe. He's the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you join me this morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
All right, I mean, let's delve in. Let's talk about the problems that are overwhelming Nigerians at this point. And of course, despite the lingering fuel scarcity and the scarcity of the currency notes, the federal government has said that the elections will hold. What's your take on it?
Well, how it will hold for organization like INEC that is almost in all aspects driven by logistics, and in most cases you have to pay for these people you are engaged because it's to them it's hard work. It's a job that you just have to do at a particular period of time. And based on their relationship with INEC, which is not a very long time relationship, logistics will be affected. Aside from that, what of the voter? I have said this several times that it's going to create voter apathy. Because if people are so decimated, they are so impoverished, not even because they don't even have money and everything, because they cannot access it, then what will give them joy to go and vote on election day? So it's going to be a chain reaction. Look at the general mood of the situation. And this flow from inadequate planning. If you want to change, there's nothing wrong in that change of the currency and everything. But you are changing the currency when there is a very hyper inflation. You are equally changing it at a particular time when you don't even have the petrol. It's very scarce in the country for people to even move around, to engage. And that, aside from that, the petrol price is costlier than before, means that it has impacted on cost of living. So people are extremely angry and angry against everything that you call the system of Nigeria, including election that will produce the next one. So it's going to affect everything that you call election in terms of logistics, in terms of mobilization of voters, in terms of mobilization of resources for election, both human and non-human resources that you need for election. So it's an Herculean task for INEC and more so a depressing task for Nigerians who constitute the electorates.
There are people who think that this NAIRA redesign policy has achieved its purpose on vote buying. Do you agree with it?
Yes, even if you have to do that, you have to do that in a very smart way. That means that a lot of planning process will have been undertaken. Not that you just wake up, you want to solve one problem in order to create that problem. That is what is happening now. For example, if you want to do that type of thing, it should be like a very shock therapy. If you want to do it for election purpose, you just give 1 week, a week of endurance. You allow people to have cash and everything. But in a very shocking way, you say that the NAIRA will expire very close to the date of election. Then you review it after the election, that people have not been able to return, turn in their old currency and everything. There are several ways you can do that without taking people through this excruciating experience of pain, of sorrow, of pangs, of prolonged suffering, unnecessary agony. So there are ways you can do such thing, but it has to go, a lot of planning will have gone inside it. And of course, you have to do that in difference to data. That what you are going to do, who is it likely going to be affected? What of the impact management or the consequence management of your action? You have to put all those things in check before all this. For example, during election, you can prevent banks from giving out large sum of money. That one is okay. But then you will still allow you will still allow other people to have us, even if it is 20,000 naira you want the maximum to be. It must be available both at the counter of the bank or at ATM. But you go to bank, you can't get it. You can't get money. You go to ATM, there's no money. You make transfer, it's not going. You want to withdraw using it for where? Those are the crises that are poorly managed. And of course, it was done without building its reality on the technology capacity. I'm talking financial technology, which we have been calling fintech and everything. We didn't take that into consideration. Even it's affecting networks now, not to talk of networks that has nothing to do. Because this money, if you want to transfer, it has to pass through network. So the pressure is on network, the pressure is on the financial technology platforms. There's pressure in the bank and everything. And most banks, because of their predisposition to violence, are shutting down now in some areas. I learned that all banks in Ikorodu are shut down because of the risk to their lives. I mean the personnel of the bank, which is not their fault in most cases. It's the fault of whether central bank didn't send the available money or a compromised manager is holding the cash. So those are the challenges that we are seeing today that could have been avoided with adequate planning. With, of course, if it is a targeted thing that you are targeting an election, you are targeting vote buying and everything, there's a smarter way of achieving that result or that end. But who are the people suffering now? Do you think the presidential candidate has access don't have access to cash? They have, because they are the owner of the banks. Where they are not, the banks you are seeing are owned by politicians or their surrogates. People fronting for them. So how is it going to affect? It's not affecting them. When they their cry or shedding crocodile tears is because they feel that possibly if they don't shout, the consequence is that people might vote against them. That's why they are shouting, not because they love the people. Those lamenting among them. If this policy had no implication for election, you won't see them talking. As Nigerian, have we been is it now that they just discover Nigeria has been suffering? Those are the issues. So those that you even want to prevent, they have access to this thing, this cash you are talking about.
What's your take on the protesters, rocked Ondo State, Edo, and also Ogun State as a result of this few naira scarcity as well?
Well, I didn't hear you well, but I know that there has been violence, eruption of violence in Edo, in some parts of the country and everything, because they have no access to basic needs that they could actually that could be funded with their monies. They have no access for that. And that is the nature of man. Man behavior can be altered. It takes a little temper. When you tamper with the cost of living, then you are inviting crisis. And that is the type of violence you are seeing today. People are already fed up. They can't eat. They can't buy what to eat and everything. And you can't prevent them from angry. So we have inevitably built angry and hungry population. And they are responding to a policy that they feel is further putting them into their streets. That's what we are seeing on the streets of Edo, on the roads of Ibadan, and of course, on the nooks and crannies of the country. I hope it doesn't engulf the entire country, because there is limit to what people can endure when it comes to hunger. Hunger is nobody's friend. It can turn the most decent human being into a very violent person. And we must avoid that at all costs. And that is what we have been telling the country and everything. Poverty, there's nothing glorious, there's nothing good about poverty. You have impoverished Nigeria enough, but to complicate their situation by cutting source of assistance, support, and help to them, it's taking it too far.
There have been widespread complaints about, the massive online transactions failure in the bank since they redesigned Naira policy by the CBN, and the banks have said that it is not their fault. What are your thoughts? Because if people can even at least have an access to, like transfer money, maybe the situation will not be as bad as it is right now.
Yeah, the banks depend on the fintech companies, those who provide support system for their platforms. They depend on them. They depend on even the networks like FTN or all those things. So it's a chain reaction. And what is actually happening now is because you are, without preparation, diverted people to these online platforms. You are now putting pressure on those platforms, and maybe they don't have the capacity to accommodate all the pressures that are coming to them. Then you continue to see failure, declining of payment when you want to make payment on those platforms. That is actually what is happening. We have for the umpteenth time, we have no adequate technology to back up what we call no money, no cash policy. We don't have that policy. We don't have that platform to back that up. No technology, no sufficient one to back it up. You can now know that almost those even before now, those using online platform for their transaction, they are less than 10% of the population. Suddenly, you want almost 90% of those who operate bank accounts to go to that platform. Then they are, consequently, you don't need a prophet to tell you that they will be overwhelmed. And they have been overwhelmed indeed. And it's affecting bank transaction itself. It's affecting bank. Banks are not the one mainly behind this. They outsource most of this to this fintech technology. They outsource the job to them. The job of providing them a platform through which transfer can be made. So a failure from one side will affect the banks. Inevitably, you can't blame it on the bank. And I don't like people blaming bank for all these policies that are not thought through, that is not thought through. We should blame only one person for this policy. And that person is not even a Mefele, is the president. Is the president, the boss up at his table. So it's not even banks that we are going to, but then they have their own problem and their own faults too. Because of corruption, even the little one that have been given to them, they are holding it, possibly sharing it with friends and others who have access to this thing at the expense of the general public. So they have their faults, but the failure of transfer and everything is not their fault. But then, also, the bank must, as the fintech is equally building up their own structure, the bank should equally expand its own capacity for accessibility of these technology services. So banks should equally invest in technology so that we have minimal problem coming from this type of situation.
Okay, looking at how chaotic the situation is right now, what exactly do you think that maybe the CBN actually did not factor in this new NAIRA redesign policy?
One, they focus on one area, the area of vote buying. But Nigeria problem is not only about vote buying alone. They didn't focus on the fact that most Nigeria, for example, over 60% of Nigerians don't have their money in bank. They didn't focus on the fact that this government has put 133 million Nigerians on throw of poverty, according to the National Bureau of Statistics figure. If they have done that, they will have known that these people are daily earners. They don't have account. You call bricklayer to come and work for you, you pay him per day. He has no account. He put his money in his pocket. Now you can't pay him. The work has stopped. They didn't factor that in. That a lot of Nigerians have no access to bank accounts. They are not operating banks. That was a very huge and calamitous mistake. A very huge miscalculation on the side of the central bank. So the central bank was not people intelligent. When you are talking of the banking environment, you don't know that even in the banking environment, you fail to know the number, the statistics of Nigerians who are within that sector. For example, if you have a population of 200 million and about 50% of that population, which is 100 million, is within the bracket of productive age. And now, you have less than 10% of them operating bank accounts. Then how dare you now pushing out this policy and in a manner that you have pushed it out? So they didn't have data, and if they have data, they did not connect with the reality of the data. The number of naira that are out of banking system were not considered. The daily behavior of Nigeria, economic behavior of the prisoners who has their money on daily basis. A taxi driver is taking you to somewhere for 20,000. He's taking 5 of you, and you are in his car, dropping you at your bus stops. Are you going to stop him? Let me make transfer. The other person will drop him. Let me make transfer. Is that not a condition, a right condition for anarchy? So he factor that in, and most importantly, he didn't factor in that because people are poor, because they are already impoverished, and then when you bring out this policy that further frustrates them, it's going to trigger anarchy, crisis, because it's just like putting fire on a lay down gunpowder. That is what has just happened now. The most vulnerable were not considered in this policy. They didn't factor it in, and more so, even the one that they say that they are paying them cash and everything. If you see, I had a lot of comments that nobody is paying cash in any of the south and everything, that they are taking the cash to the north. You are further using policy to divide even the poor and the country. By the sense, in essence, that the perception of the people is already affected by your policy. Even if the policy is ab initio good, a good one, you have frustrated it by not putting into consideration all other factors. Look, what matters in economy, and that is where you have the language of an economist, that ceteris paribus, all things being equal. It didn't factor that one in, that all things cannot be equal, but what should be equal in this respect, so that we minimize the risk to the people, particularly to the vulnerable in the society.
All right, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. before we go. And Mr. is speaking. He says, the endless queues at the banks for new Naira note is so frustrating. This cashless policy is what it is, cashless. Look,